Aliens, Colonial Marines for PS3. Every time somebody tries to defend 5-hour video games for $60, I want to smack them in the face and point to games like this. I really wanted to like this game. I really liked this game. I wanted to say that reviewers like Jim Sterling are big, meanie, dummy, poopy heads, and that they're all wrong, and that this game is the coolest thing since sliced bread, and I can't. I frickin' can't. Now, I want to take Jim Sterling up really quick on one thing. He gets really mad about the retcon. Now, I want to say this right off the bat. Spoiler alert. You have been warned. If you want to buy this game or rent this game for whatever reason and you don't want to hear some of the twist spoilers, then you've been warned. Now, Jim Sterling, who is a staunch defender of Alien 3. And I want to say this right off the bat. Alien 3, I think, is an alright film, but I'm sorry, it is not a film that you follow up a movie like Aliens with. It had a different tone to it, and it turned something, where the franchise was going, the wonders that was Cameron's work with the Aliens franchise, and basically said, whoa, let's not forget the first movie that we made. Let's go back to that. And if it wasn't for Alien 4 being made possible by Alien 3, I might not have as big a problem with it. But here's the thing. I was pissed off as well that Hicks was killed off in Aliens 3. I thought that was a boatload of bullcrap, and that they could have still kept the guns out and kept Hicks in, and instead they didn't. But okay, so the retcon. He's mad that Hicks is alive, probably because in a way it somewhat piddles on the continuity of Alien 3, but not really. Because if you take the comic book continuity into account, the Sulaco has been intercepted by Yutani and them several times over. And depending on whose continuity you want to go with, either Newt's been separated away from Ripley, Ripley's been separated away from Newt, both stories making Newt into a stronger character by proxy, but emotionally scarring her for life, so... And most have kept Hicks alive. And for me, I never really got 3, how 3 could even exist necessarily. Because for me, the problems that I had, and again, I've got the Colonial Marines, Guide to the Universe, whatever thing. So I'm sure that there's a chapter that covers this. But I thought that the eggs themselves were kind of soft coming out of the queen. And that she has to have the egg sac. She has to have the layer so that the eggs, leathery outer whatever, has time to harden enough so that it can be planted onto the ground instead of it just going, being pooped out and splats all over the ground, and thus killing the developing embryo that is the face hugger inside, who in turn has an embryo in itself. But I digress. It's embryoception. So I don't understand how the queen laid eggs. I kind of also don't understand when she had time to. Was there a third party involved who was smuggling eggs on board without us knowing? Now, the other thing I never got was, at least maybe because of budget constraints with Aliens, you saw the Marines, you saw the synthetic. That's it. Flight crew, that's it. You never saw any pilots, because usually these ships run by computer navigation, although I believe they do technically have UNMC pilots and things of this nature for the giant ships. Um, you know, and maybe there's an engineering crew. I don't know. I think the synthetic is usually, if Alien, the first one is to go by, the synthetic tends to be the person who tends to keep things together. I mean, there are still engineers here and there, but generally they're the ones who are knowledgeable about these things. They're the ones who can fix and diagnose the computer systems and so on and so forth. So where are all these aliens coming from? Where are all these aliens hatching from? You cannot have a face hugger and eggs and no warm bodies and an alien appears. It doesn't work that way. So I've always had problems with the continuity of Alien. It didn't make sense to me, and I'm sure maybe there were more of the crew that we just never saw because of budget constraints. There certainly are a lot of cryo chambers, but I digress. It's just, but the point is, checking in the links down in the underbar past Jim's review, which I've included because I think that it's pretty apt for the most part. Michael Biehn was so outraged that they were killing his character off because the original Aliens 3 was going to be a fanciful romp with Hicks and Bishop. And frankly, I kind of would have liked to have seen that movie, reading the scripts, which are in the wiki link pages below. But Biehn was so outraged that he sued the studios, and he got paid twice as much for his likeness in Aliens 3 as he did for Aliens. So there's a lot of precedence there. At least Aliens Colonial Marines uses its Michael Biehn. It's not some throwaway cameo that if you cut it out of the movie and just kept it into the game, you wouldn't miss anything. You know, I like that. That makes me happy. But what doesn't make me happy is everything else. Like the game, it builds up the encounter with the first xenomorph. It does everything by the book. It does everything right. And then it just drops the ball and dives into monotony. You know, the trailer promises you that this grand scale battle with a whole fleet of APCs and a dropship flying into you don't know what. But you're thinking to yourself, holy crap, shit just got real. We're going to have the biggest battle between Colonial Marines with their hardware and the aliens that we could have ever imagined. This is going to be the war to end all war on LV-426, and that's not what that scene is about. In fact, those machines are never fucking used. You don't even get to use them. Not to mention the fact that the battle shown where you could use the flame-throwing abilities of the power loader doesn't exist. At least not in the single-player campaign. In fact, the battles you do get are rather pathetic. Even the boss battles are pathetic. To say that this is a finished product would be an insult to finished products. I'm serious. Aliens will get shot, and instead of exploding into like a pile of goo or something, they just disappear. Literally disappear, like they were not there anymore. Aliens pop in and out of the scene at times. Sometimes they'll clip below the floor, and no, not because they've opened up a grate and gone under the floor like the movies. They just clip through the floor, and then they magically pop back up, and then they're attacking you. And then the fights do get formulaic. You start to, even on the harder settings, I found myself easily laying waste to these people and dying less and less over time. And not just because I'm elite like that, just because this doesn't have any semblance of something that really terrifies me, and I gotta agree again with Jim on this one. You're not with characters who really emote the terror. You don't really feel it. You're not really experiencing it, and therefore it doesn't impact you. It completely ignores the ideals and the messages and the reality that Cameron's work presented, and instead just makes everything like these people are fucking robots. Oh, I'm not scared of anything. Bugs. Pff, Queen Alien. She's a pussy. And that's kind of why I like the retcon, if you can call it that, of Hicks' story, because I thought his death was a rather pussy death for a hero like his and was not deserved. But I digress. Um, yeah, the boss battle at the very end is a joke. It's an out and out joke. Once you figure out how to just kind of fool the Queen Alien and all this stuff, the game, it's done. And then the ending. The ending is extremely predictable. It's short, it's out of nowhere, and I can guarantee you what they did is they broke this game up into pieces, and they're going to dole it out in DLC because they're already trying to sell me a season's pass, which will get me all the DLC through June 2013. Meaning all the new chapters that will be the story that this game probably should have had, because this doesn't really have a story. This has a go here, clear this area out as best you can, try not to get your butt shot off or bit off or what have you, and it gets boring. And another thing from the trailer or the gameplay, that level where you're supposed to be running away from the rammer alien, that part that would have broken up the monotony, it's not in the game. It's not in the game. And then the xenomorph upgrades and all that stuff is locked away behind gosh knows what. Now, the challenges, the unlocks, and the legendary weapons, that's done well. I like getting Hicks's shotgun. I like finding Hudson's pulse rifle. I don't like that I cannot have a permanent smart gun, that there's no ammo around for the smart gun, that the smart gun is like the Warthog in the original Halo. You get it, you have some fun with it, and just when you're having the most fun, it's over. And I'm like, what the? I didn't sign up for the Corps to play this kind of a terrible, terrible game. I'm sorry, I didn't. 5 hours? 5 hours for $60? Are you kidding me? People are going to defend that? People are going to defend this? This game is garbage. There's so much to it that is buggy. There's so much to it that is unpolished, unfinished. The story feels rushed. Like almost everything I've had a complaint about the Star Wars prequels is almost alive and well in this game here. And 5 hours! The only positive I have about it is the resurrection, if you can call it that, of Hicks. And given the history of Alien 3 and its many incarnations, I don't see it as much of a retcon. I see it as they know that most of us hardcore fans hated that they took Hicks out like a bitch, and so they fixed it. I don't see a major issue with that, because then, yeah, you could say, well, but then Hicks will want to find Ripley, and that. Can you imagine, though, the kind of new story that could form in Hicks having to find out about Ripley and Ripley's death, or her original death? Can you imagine how much more interesting Alien's Resurrection could possibly be with this little back door to it? I mean, that's something they did right. The atmosphere, they did right. The gameplay, they didn't do right. You've got such terrible power loader battles that are not anything like what the trailer promised for us. A lot of the missions that they teased us with don't exist or were just for the demo. This game is garbage. Don't buy it. Rent it if you have to. I mean, it's worth maybe a playthrough, maybe, but I guarantee you're going to have a hard time lasting that 5 hours. I did it because I wanted to see the end, and it really wasn't worth it. I mean, what's up with that credit sequence? It seems like a studio is almost saying goodbye because they almost know that they're not going to have a job with a crappy game release like this. Hell, you delayed Duke Nukem Forever for less than what you did with this. So why the heck didn't you finish this game? Or is this what you consider a finished product, Gearbox? If so, thanks, but no thanks on your future endeavors.